Hey lady, welcome to the Postpartum on Purpose podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Anne Marie. I'm wife to James and mom to 5 beautiful kids, ages 9 down to newborn. My hope is to help other women experience postpartum as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 57. Hi lady, I hope you're so well. In this week's Free Things Rundown, it is mostly produce related. From local friends and neighbors and church friends, we've received this week sweet corn, cucumbers, tomatoes, and potatoes. And then the other thing was a free baptism dress. And it wasn't given to us. It was not a gift. But at our local Once Upon a Child, I had $10 from rewards points. So I went and picked up the most darling. I want to use the word chiffon. I don't know if that's actually the right material, but it's very airy and floaty and a little swingy. And then it's got these tiny little flowers on it. It's just darling. It's just darling. Cecilia's getting baptized on Sunday. So those are the free things that I had this week. Today is going to be such a treat. I'm so excited to share this episode with you. Our guest host is Kate, and she gave birth to her 11th baby 2 weeks after I gave birth to my 5th. And I was talking to her, texting her after she gave birth, just seeing how things were going. And she told me she was observing the 5-5-5 rule during postpartum, especially like right off the bat. And I was intrigued. And I said, well, what is that? And when she told me, I thought, I would love for you to share that with the podcast listenership if you are open to it. And she was. So here is what I love most about her episode. I love that this is a perfect example of how every single postpartum, whether it is your first or your 11th, every single one is an opportunity for grit, growth, and grace. I found her candor so refreshing in talking about what went well and then areas that just didn't go super well in terms of following, so to speak, the rule or rules. And then lastly, I really think she is an excellent example too of how much it matters who you surround yourself with, because she cited the same friend 2 different times as connecting her with truly helpful resources and recommendations, including the 5-5-5 rule. I just think that really makes the case for building friendships that are life-giving and how much that pays dividends during the postpartum period. Without further ado, here is Kate.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Lasnoski. I just had my 11th child on June 23rd, and I'm going to talk today a little bit about postpartum recovery for mom. So, for my first child, I was 22, almost 23 years old when I had him, and I did not focus on recovery at all. At 5 days post-baby, I was out and about in my pre-pregnancy jeans planning youth ministry events with our priest. I was going to Target, doing my grocery runs, learning how to feed him in public wherever we went. And I had youthful energy, and so it was easier, but it still wasn't great for me. It was not really what I needed for myself and my body. My 6th child, so that leaves 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 6 were all very similar. My 6th child, I had a home birth, my first home birth on a Saturday, and for various ways that God made things work out, on Monday we put that same house on the market, and we're having showings that next day. It was a little bit stressful, and we moved 2 months after that across the country. So that added some stress too. Again, it was possible. I was only 32 then, but it's still I could tell it was not what was great for me or for my body or for my baby. And before my 7th child, somebody sent me the book, The First 40 Days, and it was eye-opening. It really helped me to understand how much throughout history people have been taking birth and caring for the mother after birth much more seriously than we do today. These days, I think as part of our women's lib and women's empowerment, it's seen as like a badge of honor if you are out and doing all your normal things right after you have a baby, this huge life-changing thing, this huge body-changing thing. It's like, oh no, I am more of a woman if I don't need time to recover. This is the mindset we have. When in reality, that's just not the case. If you want to embrace your womanhood, you have to take care of yourself and what you are as a woman and acknowledge it as what it is. It is life-changing. It is body-changing, and you need time to recover from it. So with number 7, I read the first 40 days, and I had my husband read it. I had my mom read it, and I had my mother-in-law, who usually comes after I have a baby for a couple days, read it, just so they could understand what my goals were this time and how they were a little bit different. And it was wonderful. But let's be honest, 40 days is a long time, and I was not able to give the full 40 days for baby number 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or now 11. So over those last few babies, I made different adjustments and different things. You know, my husband was a professor, so sometimes he was able to get a lot of time off if I had a baby at the end of the semester. Sometimes he was able to have no time off if I had it in a hard time of the semester. So I adapted that, but I still had the overall mindset of, okay, I need to make sure I prioritize taking care of myself for the sake of my family, including the new baby. But I just thought that would be a big priority, and I knew it had to be. And this time, the same friend who sent me the first 40 days book on number 7, she mentioned to me the amended rule that she's been following lately, which is the 5-5-5 rule. And I said, well, what is this 5-5-5 rule? And she said, well, it's some good guidance. Your first 5 days home after having a baby, you stay in bed. The next 5 days, you stay on the bed. The third 5 days, you stay close to the bed. And so this time, I followed that. And here we are. Today is actually the 40th day since I had my baby. And I'm looking back on that and reflecting on it, and I've realized what a nice sort of middle ground that was for me for guidance. So I'll tell you a little bit about what that looked like for me this time. So on my first 5, I really did stay in bed. I had the baby right next to me in a bassinet or on me or next to me on the bed. I had prepared before I had the baby my little bed area. I made sure I had a nice water bottle, some snacks, healthy, and some chocolate too, let's be honest. I had some tissues, and I had a lot of reading material. I made sure I had a novel, I had a spiritual book, I had my journal. What else did I have? I had lip gloss. I had all the baby things over there, of course. And I had a book on intellectual interest. I'm reading about mathematics right now because it interests me. And I also had a book of short stories and essays written for moms, because sometimes your brain can only take a short story or a short essay and can't follow something longer in those first couple days. So I had those there. I read those the first 5 days. I slept. I watched something sometimes, especially if other kids came in, just because that's another thing. Those first 5 days, I've really tried to use my help, which for me looks like older children, my mom, my husband somewhat, but this time he's just started a very demanding job, so he really only got the day of the baby's birth off from work. So I used those resources to help me keep my younger kids away for the first 5 days. They would come in and give hugs and kisses and short visits. But I'm so tired those first couple days, and I'm so very emotional that I have very, very low patience, and I'm not a great mom if they're more demanding. So we keep the demands on me from other children as low as possible if we can. So the first 5 days, I ate in bed. I would, my older children would come to visit me, or younger ones or whatever. I would ask them to refill my water bottle. I just tried to stay in that bed, laying down as much as possible. And it was great, except the first day I was home from the hospital. I'm still learning. But the first day I was home from the hospital, I was feeling really good. And I thought, I'll just go for a short walk. I put the baby in a sling, took 3 of my daughters with me. We went for a walk. It was maybe a half mile. It was, 95 degrees, but short walk. And I was like, oh, that was so nice. And I felt great afterwards. But that night, not only did my bleeding pick up, but I had a hot flash followed by an extreme cold flash where I started shaking violently, followed by 48 to 72 hours of the worst migraine I've ever had. That was a big reminder. No, this is not what you do the first 5 days or 10 days or 15 days. Okay, so first 5 days. After my walk, I remembered what I should be doing. We all make mistakes, and I did stay in bed and things were better. The second 5 of those first 5 is 5 near the bed. Or no, that's 5 on the bed. Okay, so that's like sitting up, doing more things. I had some to-do list things to do that I could do on my computer. I ordered groceries and had somebody go pick them up. I planned out some homeschool things that I needed to do. I ordered some books for homeschool, but all of this was very low-key, not having to get up, stay on the bed. I would have my younger kids in a little bit more often and read books to them. So that was the next 5 days. Then the third 5 days is when I started to be a little bit more mobile. I would get up and have dinner with the family, sometimes lunch too. I would do light chores like putting away my laundry, trying to clean up my room a little bit from the previous 10 days, helping with the dishes a little bit, but not doing the whole cleanup for the family, maybe clear the table and then say, all right, the baby's crying, I gotta go. So that's where you start to step into things a little bit more, but I still stayed home and stayed near that bed as much as possible. There was one exception in there. I'm not sure. It was right around day 10 that it was the 4th of July and I went to a 4th of July party. I don't regret that I went, but I did get a migraine for the next day and my bleeding was incredibly bad the day after. So again, it's just showing me, hey, this is what your body needs right now. Your body needs you to be at home. So that's what I did for the first 15 days this time. And I thought it was really great. The 15 days were over and I felt more ready to begin life with this baby and my children. But I certainly wasn't ready to go into full-fledged mom of 11, homeschooling, doing all the things. I still was relying on meals from a meal train, which was a wonderful blessing, and the help of family and my older children. The next 25 days, since like I said, I am at day 40, looked like a mixture of things. We planned his baptismal party and I went shopping for it at Sam's Club. That was an endeavor, but it went just fine. I welcomed home my college-age son for his 3-week break and that was good. And we had to do some driving to pick him up and everything. And around my 3rd week, we went on a trip, a vacation. So I had to pack everybody, and that was a little bit stressful to pack and make sure that we had everything ready to go 7 hours away in the car. But it was entirely worth it in the end because I was able to go somewhere with my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law who prepped and planned and did most of the meal prep for our meals while we were there. And so that ended up being another good time of rest and easing back into the day-to-day of being a mom. So we got home on day 35 maybe, and our house was clean because we left it clean. Our yard was a mess because in Illinois things grow very, very fast when you're gone for 2 weeks and sort of take over everything. And I wasn't overwhelmed looking out at my yard, and I was able to, the baby was in enough of a sleep pattern that I was able to get out there and do some gardening for, half hour to an hour a day and on top of my daily things. And now that I'm on day 40, I'm like, oh, I feel good. I can see how this is a God-ordained amount of rest, amount of preparation before, or recuperation, I guess more, before fully entering into the world. In the old traditions of the Catholic Church, there was a churching of the mom that occurred at 40 days. Like she was really supposed to stay home doing nothing. And then the first thing she does is come to church at 40 days. And there was a whole beautiful liturgy for that. And I miss that. I did get some priest over to pray with me and bless me after childbirth. And at the baptism, we did a blessing of the mom. But I think that's a beautiful thing, that it is a God-ordained time. And it just makes sense because today, as I sit at day 40, I do feel much closer to my normal self than I felt since that positive pregnancy test. And I credit that in a lot of ways to the fact that I took these 40 days seriously as a time of recuperation. A time of recuperation for my body, a time of bonding with my baby, a time to help my baby adjust to life in this world, because that's big for him, and it's my job to help him adjust to that. And so I think it just makes sense to try to do something, whatever works for you as a mom. Everybody's circumstances are different. But I encourage you, moms out there, expecting moms that have recently had babies, to seriously take this time for yourselves, for your spiritual life, for your mental life, for your physical well-being. Take this time to recover, especially because you need to be there to parent your new baby, your other children, and hopefully to be open to God's plan for whatever He has for your family in the future. And if you don't take care of yourself now, then you won't be able to do those things well in the future. Thank you so much for listening.